part of the logo for the Spanish Habsburgs. Okay, then the Spanish Habsburgs put their twin towers, their twin pillars, on Spanish dollars. Then the Americans started using Spanish dollars.
The pillars are.
And no, that's not where I'm going. Where I'm going with it is that's where the two pillars came in the dollar sign. You see, there's a history to a lot of the symbols we use. For instance, 100 is what a percent is. So what we did was we took one of the zeros, put it here, one of the zeros up here, and we took all of these lines and went like that, and we came up with a percentage sign, which was just a scrambling of 100. Well, there's a history behind these two signs here. It goes back to the Habsburgs and the Spanish dollar. That's how we got that twin towers there, the twin pillars. Okay. Then again, as somebody was saying, we've got the twin towers symbol here. We already mentioned that on the past one, so I'm going to skip that. We've got the twin columns between heaven and earth. Twin towers or columns between, I have to abbreviate here, between heaven and earth. And does anybody know offhand what's located there at the Twin Towers? That's where Plato's Atlantis was. It was also where Bacon's New Atlantis was. And what was Bacon's New Atlantis? Bacon's New Atlantis was the New World where mankind was to revolve themselves and return back to the lost golden age. The first revolution in history, the word revolution hadn't occurred until the American Revolution. And the reason it was called a revolution was because the people that led it were into the occult. There was, now, holding the bands, because I know some people are going to go, well, it was a bunch of Christians that did this. The symbology behind the word revolution means, it came from the word revolve. And it was to revolve us back to the golden age that was lost, that was Atlantis. You can go back and historically see why they used the word revolution. It meant to revolve us back to the Atlantean golden age. And that was here where the Twin Towers were.
What does the Spanish Habsburg Twin Towers mean? What was the meaning behind that?
The Twin Pillars of Hercules was I'll use a different color here. Habsburg, and you can spell Habsburg. The Habsburg logo. They were a royal family.
Yeah, I was wondering if they borrowed it from the Twin Pillars of Hercules.
That was, yeah, the Twin Pillars of Hercules was off the coast of Spain, and so they used that. What they did was, when they kicked the Muslims out of Spain, they took that as a logo because they said that no Muslims were to cross them. It's like a barrier, a gate. And then we've got, when we deal with twins, we've also got the twins of Gemini, which is associated with the god Mercury, which is also known as Hermes. And Hermes, or Mercury, depending on what name you want to give it, is the god of trade and commerce. So, and then another thing with twin is Janus, which is the twin-headed god. And this ties back into the caduceus too, which caduceus, just a U. Sorry. Caduceus. And boy, I don't know if I can find it offhand. Missing one of my books here. Oh, here? Underneath it. Here we go. I have something here showing the caduceus. And, okay, here we go. This is the caduceus right here. It's not only a Illuminati symbol, but it's a symbol that's been used around the world. It's two snakes in equilibrium. Okay, now the meaning behind it is these two snakes. If you were to go back and into the mystery religions, you will find a concept. It's called Gnosticism. And the Illuminati are Gnostics, and what they do is they believe their good deeds must balance their bad deeds. So we have a balancing between two twin snakes that bring things into equilibrium. And that's those opposing forces balancing each other is a way to create a higher static form. Okay? That's the balance of witchcraft and Satanism. And this is from Sumeria. This is from Switzerland. You can find this in ancient India and other places. You can find it in Buddhist countries in Asia. And while I have this page, I'm going to talk to you, because maybe I can bring this in later, so that I don't have to, because I'm trying to give as much as I can within an hour. When I was researching the occult, I kept bumping into a system where one symbol could stand for another symbol, that concept could stand for another one, and so I started realizing something, and I put something together. I put all the pieces together. You won't find this anywhere else. Nobody else had tied it all together. But once I tied it all together, it made a tremendous amount of sense. And I realized that I developed kind of a key to help people understand things. Okay, so there are 5 interlocking icons or symbols that all can be represented by a snake. And they're all interchangeable. It's really most amazing. This is something that if you get into witchcraft, Satanism, the occult, you're going to start, you'll learn, right? You won't see any chart like this, but you'll get a piece here, a piece there, where subconsciously you'll realize it. But Lucifer, who's also known as the light bearer, can be represented by a snake. Man's search for wisdom can be represented by a snake. Sun worship, which is also the same as energy, both energy and sun worship can be represented by a snake. The Kundalini force can be represented by a snake. And the regenerative principle, which is phallic worship and sex worship, can also be represented by a snake. And all of these things are interchangeable. So I can use the regenerative principle to stand, in other words, phallic worship, to stand for Lucifer. You've got 6 concepts there that can be interchanged. And that pertains to some of the icons that we're dealing with here in 9/11. One of the icons we're dealing with here is fire. Well, what does fire mean to you? Well, fire would represent war, would represent chaos, or, as I just showed you there, fire could actually represent some of these other things. Fire could represent wisdom. It could represent, Lucifer. It could represent a number of things. It could represent Prometheus. And Prometheus himself, or Apollo, in the occult world, would represent Lucifer, who's just the light side of Satan. Okay? If you go back and look at the Apollo myths, you'll see that all of the attributes attributed to Christ, the virgin birth, and all these other things were also attributed to Apollo. So there were 13 icons that had similar myths to them prior to Christ. They all had the virgin birth and blah, blah, blah. So there were a lot of imitators of Christ even before he came. So these things are evoked by twin towers.
Number 11.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Number 11. See, I knew my audience was going to know a lot of this cooperation. And Samson's, which was really God's, revenge on pagans. If you look at Judges, at the story of Solomon, he had had his eyes blinded. They took him to the temple of Dagon, and they were going to make sport with him. And he put one hand on one pillar and one hand on the other pillar, and he pushed the two pillars apart. So the twin pillars are also a representative of Samson's revenge on pagans. Now, some of you and some of the people that watch this on YouTube are not going to be Christians. But I'm going to tell you this, if I'm going to be honest with the symbols and the icons of 9/11, it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not, because in dealing with the Illuminati for many years, I came to realize that they use the Bible probably more than Christians. And when I was out there on circuit giving talks on the Illuminati, I used to ask my audience, what do you think the favorite occupation for Illuminati kingpins is? And they'd be like, what, politicians? Lawyers? I think, no, Christian clergymen, because that's the best front. And the Bible is used for mind control triggers and mind control programming a lot. So any of these icons and symbols that have religious, biblical significance are not only going to be used as a message from God, but are going to be used, surprisingly, I mean it blew me away, but it's going to be used by the Illuminati too, in a very mind-blowing way, which I think, what was the minute I got started, so I had an idea.
About 1:15, 1:20.
I have until 1:15.
No, you have until 2:20.
Okay, I have until 2:20.
30 minutes.
Okay, I've got 30 minutes. Wow, we just got cranked up on this. just got going. Wow. Well, I'm beginning to realize
Give him another half an hour, Jim.
that this might be more like. Let me see if I can work this all in. Okay, let's go back to towers for a minute. Because somebody was very astute. This is the tower, or the blasted tower. It's Aleister Crowley and the Thoth deck. And this relates to the 9/11 event in several ways. Numerologically, it relates to it, but this has to do with the eye of Shiva. And as you know, Shiva representing destruction and murder and war.
I don't know if it matters to your argument, but that's not the Crowley deck. That's the Wade Rider deck.
Okay. And I was under the understanding it was the Thoth deck. Okay. But it is an Aleister Crowley.
He based it on that.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying that this particular image
That's earlier.
Yeah. Right, this is...
That's not Crowley.
Yeah, right. And this is also an occult, from an occult deck. This is the tarot card. And this tarot card represents destruction. And here we see the Illuminati all-seeing eye. Now, if you were to go to ground zero today,